Okay, in this video, we're going to be going over a couple of different concepts. We're going to look at a different way to set up FK arm setup or leg, and we're going to also look at a traditional one. We're also going to be looking at a new powerful feature in Maya that lets you create editable motion trails. So let's get started. All right, so if we open up this scene here, we can see that we have a little bit of animation on our first set here. So, not going to be going over what I did in it too much, since we're going to be setting up an editable motion trail on our second arm over here. But just want to give you an idea of how this worked over here. So, once you set up a motion trail, you're able to actually go through and change everything on the fly by creating new keyframes. And then the keyframes you already have, you're able to move them in space. So you can see not much really worthwhile happened once we translated that. The arm itself still stayed basically the same since these are only orient constrained. And as we keep setting keyframes, you can see how everything follows through. Now, one of the things to pay attention to, though, is what's this going to mean for our animators? Traditionally, they're used to using the graph editor, and this is definitely a much better way to animate. It's closer to hand-drawn paper when you're looking at what your flow lines are. One problem, though, is you're still dealing with rotation, and rotation tends just to be nasty overall when you start to compound different issues. So one idea is to get as much let's actually start over here under animate, create editable motion trail on these here. So one of the ideas is to put as much emphasis on translation as possible. So translation will work the best overall for seeing our motion trails. Rotations work decently. Scaling, I haven't had too much luck with when I tested out this feature, but if we come in here and take a look at what we're going to do with our second arm, we can see what that one translation has done for us. It's given us our rotational values. And we're able to do everything very quickly on the fly. And it's pretty easy to interpret what's going to happen. Now, one of the strengths of using a broken hierarchy is that if we take a look at it and let's say we wanted to get some sliding across the floor, all we would really have to do is just key what we already have. So if we come here, hit S, move these back, what we have is some light dragging across the floor. Let's go and point constrain this. Point constrain's the wrong thing right there. Now let's go back again, constrain point. So this makes it really easy to interpret what's going to happen on screen. So you're able just to move everything as needed with your line. So if this had to be some sort of crawl animation, we'd be able to do it very quickly in FK mode. And this would really complement an FK IK system. So there's no reason that you can't actually have a couple of IKs. So these IKs here are simple RP solvers, and these here on the circles are the pole vector handles. So as you can see, we didn't get any flipping because everything's being done on a single chain and being moved all at once. So this tends to really work well until you have to get some sort of flipping motion where you go in the opposite direction. But overall, very stable. Pretty much just as stable as an FK system. If you were to add squash and stretch on top of this, this would make for a very interesting tune setup. So it has its strengths and weaknesses also. But for four-legged animals, this is one of the methods that I most prefer, especially for a cat that will act in any crazy manner in which it wants to, where it might start walking and then start crawling for what seems to be no particular reason at all. Doing this in FK would really result in a lot of non-intuitive animation where you'd have to keep going back, fighting with your system, then you'd have to move the body and keep bringing it back and rotating. So that's the difference in those two systems. And one of the reasons why we're going to be looking more at the second system to help us get the control that we want when we go into FK mode with our feline creature. So with that, you could take a look at the saved files here, and we will go on to the next lesson.